Hello, everyone. Really sorry. All on me today. I had that moment where you have to like unplug your modem, unplug your router, make sure everything's back, and then I just got everything set. We're ready to go, and my laptop just shut down. Thank you, Apple.
I had to remember to put my pants on. Otherwise, I've been good today.
Clear. I was just about. This is the crazy thing. I was just about to say something nice in the show about Apple today in regards to hockey, but not.
Now you can't do it.
I just can't do it today. I will, but it's rough. We just lost Mike. Look at that. It's just like, what the hell? What is happening? What is happening? All right.
It's one of those days.
It's just one of those days. It's all right. We're gonna get right into it here.
We'll muscle through it.
As soon as Mike gets back.
Who's Mike?
There he is. Here he goes. What happened to you? I mean, it's just like
I don't know. We started talking bad about Apple, and my MacBook Pro just said, "Shut off."
There is something there. I'm telling you. They know. They have a way of knowing. It's now telling me, remind me freaking tomorrow. I don't want to update my computer ever again because every time I do, it just gets worse. Okay, here we go. All right.
Wow, right now we're having about as bad of a day as Harvey Weinstein. Oh, never mind.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nope. It's bad. It's a bad day when Mike texts no politics in our thread. Like that's like.
Because I honestly, let's just talk. There's so much going on in the hockey world. I really don't want to talk about anything.
I don't either, and I don't either. But like it made me like worry that something worse had happened. Because I'm like, what the hell happened? That kind of thing. Because I was in the middle of writing my story. Anyway, here we go. Hello, hockey world. It's Monday, October 10th, 2017.
I'm the real Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I'm not sure what Mike's talking about.
And I am Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday. Is there actually a fake Michael Jello now?
No. I was just making fun of who has real.
Yeah, I love the real thing. Yeah.
People more important than us, Mike. That's the answer.
Right.
The actual Eklund. I should just buy the actual Eklund, the real Eklund. This is the tough thing about my name. Okay, so if ever you have an L in your name, and you guys both have, well, you do.
I have two L's.
I have two L's.
Oh, right, you do too. Russ doesn't have any L's in his name.
Russell.
I have two L's.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, yeah. So, okay, yeah. So whenever you use a name on Twitter that has an L, someone can create that again with a capital I. Yeah. And it looks exactly the same. So I've been through this. That's just the one thing. Like that is the issue.
Well,
we need to change the way capital I's look.
I cannot tell you how many times I didn't get emails from people because my AOL original AOL email was my initials, and I'm the Roman numeral 2, so I put MPAII, and it capitalized, so everybody thought it was MP all.
I remember that email. Pretty funny. It's funny, like because I still MPI. It was like MPI to me. It's pretty funny.
Anyway,
let's get to this show. Wow. First of all, there's something kind of cool going on in Vegas, with everything that's happened. And I think when I want to talk about we don't talk a little bit about the Knights too, but they are doing something tonight with their home openers tonight, and they took all the advertising off the boards, and they just have Vegas strong on the boards, which is very cool. I think it's
nice.
Yeah, it's quite an amazing. What I think the coolest thing about this is I've known some people who lived in Vegas for a couple years. Actually, that's a totally misplaced modifier. I've known people for a couple years who live in Vegas, and basically, they always tell me this is a really cool town to live in. Like it's not just we all think you live in Vegas, you're a gambler, you're a dealer, whatever. You're going out there, you're a mover and shaker. The actual people are very close, and there's a real closeness to the whole thing. And I think we're seeing that here. I think that's what's kind of good about this town. There's a lot of stuff that people are pitching in and helping each other out.
I think that the acknowledgement. I mean, it would be stupid if they didn't do this, and I'm glad that they're doing it. And with the advertising and the acknowledgement of the events that happened last week, it's a smart move. It's the right move to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice that the team has started 2-0. They're getting great performances out of Marc-Andre Fleury and James Neal, but let's everybody cool their jets because this is an expansion team and they're not a very good team. So I'm talking realism here. They're not going to be competitive for the playoffs. They're probably going to be in last place, but as long as there are players there that every once in a while will make things exciting, it's going to be a lot better experience for Vegas than an Ottawa Senators or Tampa Bay Lightning situation back in the day where they were just embarrassingly bad.
Well, if nothing else, the game has gotten better in the sense that what they do around the game in the arena, like there'll be a lot of fun. There's no question fans will have fun. I think at the end of the day, if I was going there, I'd be looking for fun more than wins, and that's fine.
And it is interesting. I mean, they are not the only, and this is sort of what my blog was about today, and I'm going to be getting into it again more later today when I do the Western Conference, but my blog today was about, would you change your picks right now if you could in any situation? And it's really early. It's like ridiculously early to say this, and I know that, but we all have you watch a team once or twice, and we're all just we're just sports fans. We're like, oh man, that team looks terrible, or and believe me, I'm reminded by Russ every time the Islanders do something wrong or the Jets do something wrong. So I'm completely.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So because they're my two outside picks.
Right, you just attacked me.
I know. I'm defending myself in this public open forum. So anyway, the four teams we all kind of thought were gonna be terrible.
Can we just touch on one thing with Vegas before we move to the 4 teams?
Yeah, this is fine. Go ahead.
Because the situation, and you wrote about it yesterday, the situation that's going on right now with not only Shipachyov, but with Alex Tuck and with Shea Theodore is really, really disgraceful. And it's a temporary thing. But I'm calling George McPhee on the carpet a little bit here because they have an overabundance of players that they could not send to the minors. And the only 3 players that they could send to the minors to make room temporarily in this situation is their best forward, arguably, in Shipachyov.
Yeah.
Their best defenseman, their best young defenseman in Shea Theodore, and their best prospect in Alex Tuck. And other than the first-round picks that they drafted.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a situation now. They alleviated it a little bit with the Calvin Pickard situation. He cleared waivers. They traded him to Toronto. They got a minor league prospect and a low draft pick back. But this has got – I mean, I don't think Shipachyov, at least his agent, is saying that he doesn't want to go back. But I'm sure he doesn't want to be sitting in limbo for a couple weeks while they get this straightened out. He wants to play. He's been in the KHL his entire career. He wants to play, and they gotta change this pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is the business of hockey part that stinks for players. That's really what it boils down to.
It is a weird choice on a lot of levels. I think all 3 players. I mean, I've heard there's, to say this is just a business decision though. I've talked to people and they say there's more to it. Now, for what that's worth, I mean, take that for what it's worth. I mean, you're right that this is Shipachyov, there were issues apparently.
Okay.
Not complete. It's not the other 2. I think but they're younger and that they're them doing this is nothing that another team might not do.
No, they would do it because they have moves available. That's the problem. But the problem is, it stinks for the young player when you're a player that has options compared to a guy that's maybe not even close to your potential, but gets called up or not because he doesn't have any more options anymore. So they don't want to send him down because they don't want to lose him. Right.
And, so for Shipachyov, I've heard, that there was a little bit of an entitlement thing going on there. And so they didn't want it. This is obviously is a business thing still, but I do, this is Gallant and McPhee are 2 guys that are definitely not going to stand for anything like that. If that's happening.
Right. But if they're teaching them a lesson, that's all fine and good. But I'm pretty sure that when teams were bidding for his services over the summer, that Vegas was not the only one. And there are teams out there right now that could use a guy who I think arguably is a top 6 forward.
That plays into this, okay? Because Vegas wasn't the only one, but he went to Vegas, Mike, because he assumed playing time, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, he goes there assuming playing time. So if the way the NHL works, if you're a player who assumes playing time, you're gonna hear about it. You know what I mean? Like if there's any feeling that you're like, I came here, I'm going to there because that team's not good enough and I can play on that team.
Well, but I mean,
if they get that sense at all.
Well, McPhee's got egg on his face if he paid $4.5 million a year for a guy who can't play or who they think can't play. That's a misjudgment after 3 months and him not even playing a game, an NHL game.
You're right. No, but part of it is like, how do you know what these guys are really like sometimes until you get a situation, you know? And I think that plays into this, like, you know, and you're the brand new team. It's very important to more than any time to have to install your culture, right? That this is going to be a team that has this certain kind of culture.
Sure.
And remember McPhee, you know, and David Poyle, you know, they're from the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're cut from the same, and they could work together. You know, these guys are guys who actually remember. This is Poyle who scratched Radulov in the playoffs. You know, so if you think something is happening like that, you know, I'm not saying there is completely. I'm not saying this is horrible, but I'm not saying it's completely a business decision. So I haven't been able to pin down anything specific, except for some people saying, well, there's more to it, kind of thing. So I'm extrapolating a lot here. So. You know, but I'm just saying, if that situation is happening and we don't know about it, this situation could be more understandable than we know. You know, and it feels like that to me. It feels like something, you know, based on talking to people, it feels like something is happening. Now, I don't, you know, I mean, watching
it's their right, it's their team. End of the day.
Right. Watching the preseason, I thought I was super impressed by Superstuff. I was like, that kid's amazing. He's going to be a great player. So. You know, and he's also, you could say he's not a bad person at all, but at the end of the day, this has got to be pissing him off enough because doesn't understand why the business. I'm sure he doesn't understand the waiver draft and all the different things that are happening, and, you know, as well as he should, because, you know, even if his agent is telling him, you know, he's still like, you like you're saying, Mike, you bid for me to get me. So yeah, it's an issue. I know teams are trying to get him and they're not trading him yet. Okay. So, you know, I talked to a couple teams. Montreal made a really big play. Buffalo made a big play. There's teams that are definitely interested.
Well, I mean, Montreal would make all the sense in the world, especially with their struggles so far. Which, gee, nobody saw that coming.
Well, they're a little bit extreme, but yeah, I mean, their struggles are. But to me, like, the whole thing is, you know, what I wanted to kind of segue into is the 4 teams that we all sort of thought were going to go nowhere are either leading the division or like at the top of their divisions, right? They're right. It's funny, and it is so freaking early. I get that, but you know, but it is surprising to see Vegas, Colorado, New Jersey, and Detroit.
Oh, wait, I did say that I thought New Jersey could be NHL 500. I did.
You actually were up on New Jersey. I was up.
And I do stick with that.
Yeah, and I was a little higher on Detroit. But you know, and there are ways this can happen, obviously, but I was trying to look at the ways that the games have gone, how they've looked in general, because you know, wins and losses aren't enough right now.
Right.
But, are any of those 4 teams for real in your minds?
I mean, here's the thing about Colorado. Again, I even had mentioned, although I still didn't have much faith, that, hey, Varlamov was going to have this great year. You can sort of see it in camp. And so he is propelling them to some wins with some well-timed offense. I don't think they'll keep it up. I think New Jersey can keep up what they're doing. Now, is it going to be to this degree? I don't know. But they do have better defense than people thought. And I did bring that up a few times, and I stick by it. They're getting amazing output from players. And it's a funny thing because, you know, Mike called me, and a lot of times I take good notes, and sometimes I don't do anything with them. And so, like, he goes, well, what do you know about Jesper Bratt? And I'm like, well, I know he's scoring, but let me look at my notes. And sure enough, I had notes from him and where he started the under-18s, and he was really good at the World Juniors. And so sure enough, I wrote something this morning on Sportsology about him. And the funny thing is he's only getting a chance because Palmieri and Stafford are out.
Right.
But that's what happens sometimes. Now, am I going to say this guy's a fluke? No, because he sort of and when I say this, I'm not comparing him to the player, but he sort of fits the John Madden role that they used to have a guy that could be a great penalty killer, that would get offense off the penalty kill, that was, you know, a smart player. And it just seems like he's walked into this role. So now even when the other 2 guys come back, he's still going to be there. So I don't think he's a fluke. And the funny thing is, like, to show or to illustrate that nobody saw him coming, nobody that I know of on earth would have picked him for a pre-Calder guy. And right now, he doesn't even have a hockey card because, you know, Like,
well, I thought the funniest thing was that on NHL.com they have, like, say Austin Matthews scores a goal and there's a little round picture of the profile picture of Austin Matthews, of the the headshot of him. For Jesper Bratt, they just had the outline. They had no picture.
Yeah.
So yeah, he has come out of nowhere.
He's an amazing 6th-round pick, and I do have to give Paul Castron and that scouting crew credit in New Jersey. Now, he is not even from the SHL. He's from the league below that. And they scouted him. They put him in the 6th round, and he's the only 6th-round pick right now playing in the NHL from the 2016 draft. So this is where you have to give the Devils credit, because they have been scouting pretty well since Castron has gotten there. He used to be the Columbus guy, and we never used to kill Columbus on their drafting either.
Well, he's from the tier 1 or that second tier league.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. It starts with an A.
Yeah, I'd butcher it. So, but Bill Meltzer could pronounce.
Meltzer can do it.
Yeah, but of the 4 teams you're talking about are Jersey, Colorado, and who are the other 2?
Detroit and Vegas.
Okay, of the 4, I think the most real is Jersey. I think Detroit. If Detroit makes the playoffs, then it's an embarrassment on the level of Ottawa last year. I don't see that team making the playoffs. I don't see that team finishing any higher than 7th. I think Florida is better than them. I think they have the worst goaltending in the Atlantic Division. And now, if Dylan Larkin comes back, which I expect him to do, if Zetterberg has a year close to what he did last year, they could. I don't think they're going to challenge for a playoff spot, but that's going to make them better. I just don't think that, right now, I just think it's the beginning of the season, the new building, that sort of euphoria. With New Jersey, they have Schneider. Hischier so far looks like it's not a reach for him being in the NHL. He's capable. He's stepping in, and he's played well. They have Taylor Hall, who's a bona fide top 10 scorer in this league.
Good coach.
They have a very good coach. And remember, 2 years ago, they stayed in the playoff race until about February, when they started getting injuries and people started getting worn down. So it's not out of the question that they could stick around again if Schneider carries them, and their defense is a little better now. Colorado, I watched a little bit of that game yesterday. It was a bad game by Boston. Now, again, McKinnon, Landeskog, Duchesne, there's talent there. If they play up to their potential.
Don't forget Rantanen.
Right? No, don't forget Rantanen.
Everybody forgets Rantanen.
I know. No.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, but there is talent there, but those players have to carry the load. I mean, you're not going to get 30 goals out of Sven Andrighetto and JT Compher. So I question the depth, but there, Varlamov, if he stands on his head like he did a few years back, they could. They could stick around for a little while, a lot longer than other people. Vegas, it's great. They won 2 games. If they win 20, it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury's getting peppered. I'll be amazed and impressed if he can keep that up all year.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, and that's what they have going for them, right? And he's And all these teams, actually, for the most part, except for Detroit, like you've said, Mike, you're looking at goalies. You're looking at goalies on all 3 of those other teams. I mean, Schneider, Varlamov, and Fleury. Those are 3 serious goalies. I mean,
here's a funny thing too. So, when does a team sort of look like they're not as good as their record? Like, if you look at the Islanders that are 1-1-1,
right?
They came back late after being pretty much overtaken most of the game by St. Louis yesterday, 2-0. A lot of young guys taking penalties. And then in the shootout, I was a little surprised. And in the shootout, they did not use John Tavares. And I'm thinking, and they used Eberle and they used Beauvillier, and they lost in the shootout. That game was all Tarasenko, man. Like, if you watch his backhand goal from that game, it was spectacular. But here's the thing. So I looked it up, and I know Tavares has had his ups and downs with the shootout. But last year, he only went 3 times, and he was 2 for 3 at 66%. Like, I don't know about you, but if I want wins early in the season, I got John Tavares on the bench. I'm still calling his another number whether he wants to be out there or not. I feel like I have to use him. They didn't use him. It's
crazy. I mean, I really honestly think it's nuts that he is. And it's not the only player. There's another player I heard the other day. Was it Draisaitl that didn't go in the shootout for Edmonton? It was something strange. It was another one of these big players that just got signed, and they actually talked about it on Coach's Corner. And like, how do you give somebody
Eichel? Didn't go for
that's it. There we go. It's Eichel. I mean, how do you give somebody all that money and not let them take a shot in the shootout?
I gotta tell you, if I'm a coach, I get that sometimes you want the hot hand to go in the shootout, and I'll use one hot hand guy, but I want at least two guys that I know I'm using every time in the shootout because they're great at it or they're my best players, because I want to win or lose with my best players. I don't want to win or lose with guys that shouldn't be in the shootout.
Yeah, and I remember the Sabres used Jason Pominville, who scored both goals for them in that game. So that one was understandable, but the other two, I'm trying to remember who the other two were, and I really couldn't believe, unless, we know that there are players out there who are great players who are not great in the shootout. Yager, they avoid using in the shootout because he doesn't like it or he's not good at it. But Eichel is your $80 million. Yeah, Eichel is your $80 million guy.
Yeah, you just signed the guy. It's like you're afraid or something. It feels like you're afraid to embarrass him or.
Like, these are points. Like, the shootout's important.
And you can't tell me Eichel doesn't want to take it. I can't see Eichel as the kind of guy.
No, I can't see it either.
He's like, I'm not good at the shootout. I can't see him possibly saying that.
I think coaches overthink it. I think it's one of those things where, again, like Mike said, Pominville's the perfect guy to throw in the shootout. He's got the hot hand. Let him go first. But you still, if you have a star on the bench, you better use them. I mean, again, we watched John Tortorella not use stars on the bench and lose the playoffs with the Rangers that way. I thought coaches would learn their lesson from that, but coaches, they just go. I can't explain it.
Well, okay, and I had to look up their roster to remember who the other two were. They used Jakob Josefsson.
Okay.
I'm assuming if they're using him,
pretty good for the Devils over the years. So I imagine he's got.
I'm assuming he's a specialist. He's like a UC Jokinen type of, maybe it's the double J's. UC Jokinen.
Yeah.
But the other one was Sam Reinhart.
Yeah, see, that one doesn't make sense to me.
Not Ryan O'Reilly, not Evander Kane, not Jack Eichel, but Sam. And I like Sam.
To be honest, Evander Kane was hot in that game and has been hot lately. I think he has 4 goals. They're not using him. They don't use Jack Eichel. Come on.
Yeah. Now, we have to talk.
Hasn't Tavares taken shootout shots for Canada? Like I for some reason I remember. I don't know. I remember a game where a situation where Tavares was one of the shooters for Canada. Like, when you're talking about like all the talent that's on Canada.
Right. Well, the go-to guy in the shootout would be Taves. If they did the TJ Oshie thing, it would be Taves.
Right. It was, but I think that he was one of them. As far as I remember, he was definitely one of them.
But we have to mention the Sabres because I know that around here it's like, here we go again. And I'm not attacking Phil Housley, and I'm not attacking Jason Botterill. They changed over half of this roster. They brought, so a massive changeover. And I only caught highlights of the game, but I talked to somebody who was at the game, and they essentially said there was no emotion whatsoever. And, it was okay. It was a Monday afternoon game against the New Jersey Devils, but they lost to Montreal. They lost to the Islanders, and now it was a mail-in effort against New Jersey. The patience for the Sabres organization in Buffalo in terms of their failure over the last few years is wearing thin with the fan base. They want to see some success. They've made all these moves. They paid Eichel the money. They have high, draft picks who are, entering like the primes of their career, and they're not seeing the results. And with a new administration, with a new GM and a new coach, if this continues for, say, half a season, I think you're going to see some sort of major move. That might mean, even though he scored 4 goals, that might mean them moving out a guy like Evander Kane because his contract is going to expire at the end of the year. They have to do something to change the direction of this franchise, because right now it just seems rudderless.
Right. No, and when we talked about Buffalo, I said they were one of the hardest teams to pick because you just didn't know. They're going to be good eventually, but are they good yet? And that was like that was the whole thing we went through with Edmonton for so many years. They're going to be good eventually, but are they good yet? Right. And it feels like Buffalo feels like one of those years with Edmonton, that we like thought they were okay. We were thinking they were going to be good a little bit too soon. Like, they're one of the ones that I look at my picks. I'm like, I picked them in 4th, I think. And I'm like that. that's high. You know, like that. And I might be, you know, things can still change. The big thing is they just can't keep the puck out of their net.
That is a big thing, and that's something that could erode a team's confidence.
They've given up 15 goals in 3 games. You know, it's like,
yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. You know, you can't. I mean, really, that Pittsburgh's given up 15 goals in 3 games too, but they gave up 10 goals in 1 game. So
yeah. And it wasn't Chad Johnson's fault yesterday. It wasn't that he put the backup in and, you know, he was bad. It was just their defense, you know, and Russ, again, I think Rasmus Ristolainen is the #1 defenseman in this league.
Yeah.
But the rest of that defense is suspect.
It's true.
You know, last year Jake McCabe was played as his #2 defenseman. Now I think that was a little higher than they wanted to play him. But you've got guys like Georges and Bogosian, and you know the uncertainty of a guy coming over the KHL in Antipin. Scandella, you know, he's just coming back from an injury, but they need Bogosian to play like the $5 million defenseman that he is, and he's
gone.
And those days are right. And the thing is, if that's the case, then they've got a boat anchor around their neck because that guy is killing their cap and not living up to expectations.
But there is something cool going on in Buffalo, Mike. I don't know if that's cool.
Well, I'm here. Of course there's something cool.
No, you're not it. Everybody knows about you.
This is Perry's ice cream, Russ, you're talking about.
Yes.
We've been making new Sabres flavor. This is from sportsology.com.
Well, but it doesn't matter. They put it out. Perry's put it out. Mike swears by them. He says they're a good ice cream.
Perry's is a great ice cream, and they've done seasonal things involving the Sabres and the Bills. So they've done this before. So I believe it's called Let's Dough Buffalo.
Let's Dough Buffalo, yeah. You know, like a chocolate chip cookie dough, and then dough being the play on Eichel's contract. I think it's witty. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, just like the Sabres, they're ice cold and undercooked.
No.
Damn it, I wish we had the sound effects to do the drum roll.
Cookie dough and ice cream. All right. No, so it's okay. So it's at Wegmans. All right. Well, not Wegmans here, of course, but
no, it's in Wegmans in Buffalo.
Yes, right. And probably in Rochester,
pretty much.
And maybe Rochester and surrounding areas.
Yes,
we've got a Wegmans here. That is a New York thing, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's your neck of the woods, I think. Because my wife went to Cornell and she said there was a Wegmans up there when she was.
Oh, there's Wegmans everywhere in New York. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, good. That's cool. Yeah, I saw the other day. I saw like the. You know, it's funny when companies do this. That there's a Flyers like hot dog rolls. You know, by some.
Yeah.
You know, but they're just hot dog.
I don't think hot dog rolls is like, to me, it's so innocuous. But ice cream, you could really like. I like it when they do it with ice cream. I think ice cream is the perfect vehicle to do it with.
Yeah, it's a good combination too. Cookie dough.
Yeah,
this is like a combination of cookie dough and like Oreo ice cream.
Yeah.
Those are 2 of my favorites actually. Go with that. Very nice. All right, we have to talk a little bit about the Maple Leafs because they are the story right now in the NHL. I think just the impressive way they've been playing, the impressive wins, and they obviously had issues in the Rangers game. Where the Rangers battled back, but a lot of that was the Rangers were pretty desperate to get back into that game too. And
they were, but they got a couple breaks in that game too that we're going to talk about. The Leafs, they did.
Oh yeah, no, they're definitely getting some breaks right now. They are, things are going their way.
One of them was massive, actually.
Go ahead, which is what?
Well, here's the thing. So the first one, I'll let Mike get into the slashing and how that's going on around the league. There was a really, I can't say it's a phantom slashing call, but it was like a baby using a Q-tip slashing Mike on his knuckle. That was like one of the calls. But the other call was the Marner, did he have possession of the puck before he crossed the line and got that 6th goal, which was a big goal? And the funny thing is, it's like, if the NHL is going to use video replay now for possession, right?
Yeah.
Now just bear with me on this. If a referee loses sight of the puck, should they not whistle it dead? And Eck freezes. There you go.
I'm thinking. So it's something. So If the referee loses sight of the puck, should they not whistle it dead? No,
right, because he crossed the line and you did not have any idea where the puck was for about 3 seconds.
That's what referees do is if they lose sight of the puck, they blow it dead. That's
you did have
rule, right? I mean, the rule's been that way forever.
But the referee did know where the puck was. The puck was in Marner's paraphernalia. Now, it wasn't in his glove or anything. It was like caught up in his jersey or whatever, and he carried it over the line, which meant the puck and the player crossed at the same time.
Yeah, but you don't have video evidence of that. So my argument is
no, you're right.
It dropped. It dropped there.
No, but it doesn't. But it took a few seconds to drop. Like nobody knew where it was.
Where did the whistle blow? The whistle blow before it drops?
No, they didn't blow a whistle at all.
No, it was maybe 2 seconds. It was maybe 2 seconds.
Yeah, it was 2 seconds. I would think that's fair.
You got a whistle there. You're right. I mean, they got a little.
Yeah, and the Rangers and the Rangers did challenge it, and they lost the challenge. Now, a game later, the Rangers are playing the Canadians, and Lundqvist does have this special glove, and he covers up the puck, and it's dead. No whistle. Then I think Shaw or somebody gets it free and puts it in the net, and you never see Lundqvist get in a referee's face, but he was in the referee's face, and rightly so. Again, where was the whistle?
Right.
So this again goes to possession. Did the goalie have possession of the puck? I believe he did, and I believe he had it for more than a second. And it's like at that point, you can't have players just chipping away at a goalie's glove to get the puck loose when it's clearly dead. But in that game, they did because the referee never whistled it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, when you think about this, the rules in soccer, for what it's worth, if a goalie has their two fingers on top of the ball, play is dead. It's not the idea is you don't want to get somebody hurt. Like the idea is you don't have to have. In hockey, it goes way beyond that, and you're swinging sticks and skates at people and stuff like that. It's totally crazy. Really when you think about it. And that
steer it back to the Leafs, but that's my issue with the NHL over the weekend.
Well, I think I'm going to throw something out just as like a little tangent from this, and then we'll go right back to the Leafs. Is that I feel why is it that every year when the NHL season starts, it starts with controversial goals? Like there's something about like the beginning of the season.
It's true.
Every season.
Well, controversial goals and the fact that everybody starts the season playing wide open hockey like it's it's like it's the gunfight at the OK Corral, like it's the 1980s or the early 90s before the neutral zone trap. It's nuts right now, and the coaches don't like it. I can tell you, Babcock.
The coaches don't like it.
Yeah, and now this is the thing. The Leafs right now, nobody's begrudging them being 3-0. Everybody loves that. But the problem is that in the first game, they took 4 penalties in the first period, and Frederick Anderson saved their bacon until their offense got online. Second game, they go out 5-1. They sell out in the first period. They go nuts on Lundqvist. And believe me, the game would probably have been 8-1 if Lundqvist didn't stand on his head. And then they sit back and let the Rangers back into that game and tie that game. And, they won it in the third period. But the sign of a team that's mature, that's ready to win and win in the postseason, you don't blow a 5-1 lead. That game ends 6-2. Instead, it ends up 8-5, and they surrender a 4-goal lead. Last night, they got outplayed in the first period by a much more experienced Chicago team. Yeah. Anton Forsberg, who maybe he's a better goaltender now, Russ, because maybe all I know is that
he looked really good last night.
Yeah, I'll give him another chance. Maybe he has figured it out.
Yeah, he looked really good last night, and the Leafs, I think, were following the instructions of their coach to play more of a two-way game, and they were bad at it in the first period. And only when they were desperate, down 3-1 midway through the third period, and he shortened his bench and put Marleau with Matthews and Nylander and moved Connor Brown up to the line with Kadri, did they start buzzing around the net. They tie the game, and then Matthews wins it in overtime. But they had to play that desperate, wide-open offensive style to win, and that is not going to win in the playoffs. They have to learn, and that was the whole reason why you bring in Marleau, Hainsey, and Dominic Moore, was to have grounded veterans who can show the young guys how to play. And right now, all they're doing is, okay, let's just turn it on. I mean, it doesn't work like that in the playoffs. It doesn't.
You can very much go half empty or half full on this one, but you could also say this, okay? I could make the argument, okay? They obviously they go and blow Winnipeg away in the beginning, in the opening game. And you could argue that they weren't that great at the beginning of the game, took a lot of penalties, but then they come back and they take a 5-1. They chase Lundqvist in a Rangers, which is hard to do. It's really hard to do. They chase Lundqvist, and yes, they do get caught up to, but bad teams don't still win that game. They still find a way to win the game. And then the same thing can be said about the Chicago game, where they are playing the Chicago Blackhawks, who just beat the Stanley Cup champions 10-1. Mm-hmm. They take a 2-0 lead on them. You could easily fall apart at that point if you're a young team. Mm-hmm. Again, they don't. They battle back, and they find a way to win on an unbelievable shot in overtime by their star. So, to me, I'm looking at it like, okay, yes, there's errors, but those errors at the end of the day are still leading to wins. And if you think that's not going to happen in the playoffs, you're right, probably. But you're also 80 games from the playoffs. There's so much time. And if he's going to sit there and tell his team to play two ways, great. We might as well do it against Chicago. And if you end up getting a win out of it, and you get to work on something, which is that's a typical thing of good coaches. Like the Penguins, Penguins know they're in the playoffs all the time, so Bosman used to be really great at working on things. Like he would have the most bizarre power play units out sometimes in the middle of the regular season, just because he wanted to see something or exchange his lines around. But yeah.
And you're right. There should be an evolution, and Babcock is a teaching coach, and he will instruct his players as the season goes along. I'm just saying that right now there's a euphoria right now in Toronto because the team is 3-0 and they're leading the NHL with 19 goals, and you just have to come to the realization that this team cannot play this way. And I mean, even the players are saying that they cannot continue to play.
They're feeding off their coach, and their coach is telling them that this isn't good enough because it'd be easy for them. I think Babcock does a really good job, like you're doing now, of managing expectations.
Now, go
ahead.
I have to say this, and this is not just about the Leafs, and I haven't followed as much of the percentage of this particular call compared to other ones. But in the game last night, it was ridiculous. 13 minors called in the game, 8 slashing calls. Will you please stop it? This is getting ridiculous. I understand, okay, the lesson was learned early in the preseason about the face-offs. They called a few face-off violation penalties, and now everybody pretty much is keeping their feet behind the line, and face-offs are going a lot smoother. But this ridiculousness with this, I mean, there were calls last night. It was like a tap, and it was a 2-minute penalty. I mean, come on.
I think they have to do it. I don't think I think it sucks right now. I'm just going to counterpoint that. I mean, I will say this, that we always see more goals in the beginning of the regular season, always, because teams are playing harder. But I do think taking away the slashing could also lead to a lot more goals, because there are players when they're carrying the puck down the ice, that is what you do. You give them a little tap to distract them, to get them off their game slightly. If they don't have to worry about that, we could see some serious numbers.
Just to answer some Twitter people, was that a record? Because, Leaf fans always think something happens in the game and it's an NHL record. That's just the way they operate. That 8 slashes, that is not an NHL record, because the Flyers on October 4th had a game with 14 slashing penalties.
Yeah,
so,
it's just
so they haven't, they got a long way to go, but it is ridiculous. I will tell you this, Ek, if you look on Twitter, fans hate it.
Everybody hates it, and it's totally understandable. I hate it. Everybody hates it when you watch it. But you do, again, it's kind of like I hated the salary cap, I mean,
it's salary cap you live with because you say, okay, after a while it's going to be okay. Right now, there's nothing positive about this slashing penalty thing, except maybe you're getting a few more goals out of it. But there's not one team that's benefiting over another, and that's why all fans universally hate it.
You're going to get less injuries out of it. That's the big thing, and you're going to keep your star players on the ice, and not just because and players get slashed all the time, and they are. If you look at a guy's hands after a game, I mean, they're playing with all kinds of bruises that you would all be like. I mean, they only don't play when their finger is broken, and sometimes they play when their finger is broken.
But this is the hypersensitive BS that happened coming out of the lockout with the obstruction. And you gave
it's a lot better, Mike. I mean, that sucked for a while, but once players learned the new obstruction rules and they didn't obstruct as much, it got a lot better.
Right, but what I'm saying is, Zach, if they it's one thing if they're going to continue to call like this, and players stop with the tapping. That's not going to happen, because with obstruction, after after a year, they went back to the way it was. Because
all the way back to the way it was. See,
they didn't go all the way back, but they retreated, and that's what's going to happen.
That's what always happens in these things, and it'll push it as far as they possibly can now, and it'll come back someplace, but it won't come back to where it was, and that's what they're trying to get here. They're trying to just move the ball forward a little bit, and they know they're going to get 20 yards now, but they're going to lose 10 yards, but that's okay because they're 10 yards ahead at the end of the day. And I think that's if we see, because not just the player, like I was saying, the players' injuries. Those fingers and all those all those bruises, that affects how players play. They'll say, it affects them. If we have players whose hands are in great shape, you're going to see a lot more skill out there. You're going to see a lot more stuff.
So does every penalty that's ever been, done or performed in the NHL hurt another player. There's not a penalty that a bruise isn't associated with. If you trip somebody, they're getting a bruise somewhere. If you slash somebody, they're getting a bruise somewhere. If you get into a scrum and you got that one guy pushing on your face, that's something. If you get a guy like Bortuzzo who 4 times hit somebody with his stick in the back of the neck of a player yesterday on the Islanders, I mean, it gets crazy.
Well, it was a bad night for the referees because Andreas Borgman, a Leafs rookie defenseman, hits Alex DeBrincat in the corner. Doesn't hit him against the boards. It was a face-to-face hit. It was a clean, hard check. Borgman's like 6 foot and 210 pounds, and DeBrincat's much smaller, and he pancaked him. It was a nice clean check, and he got called 2 minutes for interference. I mean, this is the thing.
Yeah,
you're eliminating hitting, you're eliminating checking in terms of checking with a stick. This is getting to be like the NFL, where you can't play defense anymore. Now, if they want fake offense by not allowing teams to play defense, you're going to get that. But I think the game will be less entertaining.
That's a tough one, man. I don't know. I agree with you, but I don't think we're heading there. I don't think we're heading there at all. And I
hope not. I hope not. But right now, the early signs are that we are.
No, here's the thing. Just to point this out, I felt like what Bortuzzo did in this game was excessive. A lot of people tweeted about it. It's not being talked about at all. And everybody's sort of just shrugging it off to, it's Bortuzzo, that's what he does. Yeah. He got a penalty, but that's it. Nobody's talking about it afterwards. He could have really hurt a player, but a slash is not going to hurt a player as much as this. I'm going to see if I can find it for you, the video.
I saw. Yeah, we should try to put it up.
I mean, you got to admit, in today's hockey, were you not surprised that he got like 3 or 4 of those shots in before they pulled him off on the back of a guy's neck?
Right.
Were you surprised? I was surprised.
Yeah, I was too. Really, I really was. When I saw it, I was. But again, I mean, we can get into it. But I've always found him to be a dirty player. He's dirty. He's dirty, sneaky dirty. I still hold the Kevin Fiala's injury last year was a dirty play. And I'll hold it that forever. I've seen it many times. It's just there's a lot of that's the bottom line with him. I guess we need to mention So we do need to mention that the curse has been broken with the Flames in Anaheim last night. After first time they've won there since January 19th, 2004, which is before Sidney Crosby was in the NHL. How about that?
That's a long time, man.
Well,
really long time.
The team, and that's good that because Calgary got swept by Anaheim last year, and to break a streak like that. I mean, in different sport, but in the 70s, the Buffalo Bills could not beat the Miami Dolphins in Buffalo, in Miami. And when they finally won a game in 1980, there was euphoria in Buffalo. More because they actually won a game, not because they beat the Dolphins. But I mean, Calgary's off to a little bit of a slow start after that first game against Edmonton, but I still think that team's going to be in the top 3 of the Pacific. I'm a little surprised right now that the Kings are 2-0. But the thing that doesn't surprise me, Russ, and we talked about it when we reviewed the Pacific, was San Jose. Yeah, that team is in trouble.
Yeah, they're tired, man. They look a little tired.
They do look tired. I think the Kings thing, watching them play the one game I watched them play, they are going to be the old Devils of the West. That's what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, like you said, they're a sleeping pill, man. They're hoping quick
Oh, they really
two goals or less.
Yeah, they played all defense all the time. Stevens is bringing in that old, whatever the division was called when he was in Philadelphia. Yep. The Northeast, or what was it? I don't know what was it called. But anyway, yeah, that's
sad that we can't even remember.
Isn't that crazy?
The snore division.
Right. And but along those lines of the interesting streaks, the Bruins haven't beaten the Avalanche since 1988.
That's a weird one. I mean, back in the day when Colorado,
and of course, but it's 10 wins and a tie for the Avalanche. Yeah, it's just, and that's at home. Okay, that's at home. They haven't beaten the Avalanche in Boston since 1998. Sorry.
Well, I think San Jose in Buffalo. I think they've won one game in Buffalo in their existence, and that was the day after the Joe Thornton trade.
Right.
Other than that, I don't think that they've won a game in Buffalo. So there are streaks like that. I mean, Anaheim and Calgary, Boston, Colorado,
Philadelphia, and Atlanta.
This is how you know the Sharks are in trouble. When they tweet out on October 9th, 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, 4 chips, and a whole lot of fun. Here's the Sharks family pack. Like when that's more important than their play.
Yeah, personally, I think 4 chips is too few. That's really being
4 bags of chips.
Okay, all right. It's like my daughter the other day told me to bring her to school a bag of food. I'm like, all right, what does that mean? It's a text I get. Please bring.
You know what that means? I'll tell you what that means. That means she is totally fed up with your lunch providing skills. That's what that means.
That's not me. I don't make lunches around here. So,
okay, so whoever makes the lunches, it's on them. Like that's an indictment.
I'm throwing Oreos in and stuff like that, so we're in bad shape. But my wife makes the healthy lunches. They love.
If her lunch isn't steel worthy, meaning like when you put it, I don't know if they put it in cubbies anymore. But if nobody in the classroom wants to steal that lunch, it's a bad lunch.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, but I'll tell you what, they eat way healthier than we ever ate as kids. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know, but like. That's the one time you don't need – when you're her age, you don't need to eat totally healthy. You don't. Your body will recover.
I don't know if kids –
She's 5'7". She's in great shape. And I don't think she's eaten anything in her life besides ravioli, macaroni and cheese, and maybe French fries. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter at her age because the metabolism and the amount of work that she's doing sports-wise, it doesn't matter.
Do kids still bring a thermos of Lipton chicken noodle soup to lunch?
Not in Get Out with Their Life, Mike. No, I mean that's pretty rough. That's not going to happen in that situation. It is funny though. They do have. I mean, their lunch things are so much healthier. Kids are so much nicer to each other now. It's insane. I mean, it's funny too. I mean,
there used to be this whole ringleader of people
that
would steal from lunches and just steal the ring dings or the Oreos or whatever right out of your lunch. And once homeroom switched and your lunch was there, it was a sitting duck, man.
I went to a tough high school. They were ready to kill you for that square piece of pizza with the 2 pieces of pepperoni and the styrofoam cheese that was on top of it.
Oh yeah, no, I know. It's so. I mean, you guys don't have kids, so. But the crazy thing is, they have learned ahead of math, ahead of English, ahead of anything else. They have learned about bullying. Like that is, they have been drilled into the anti-bullying thing, which is great. But this is made for an unbelievably kind group of kids. Like at least in our area, like they have the homecoming king and queen, or like 2 autistic kids that they all voted in just out of the goodness of their heart.
Awesome.
It's like they have transgender kids that they welcome in as captains on their clubs. It's just there's so much openness in our area, and yet we voted the other way in the election. Anyway, that's all the politics we have for today, Mike. I didn't get into Bill Foley, which I don't want to get into, but it is a hockey story, so someone keeps telling me I should do it. Did you hear this one?
No.
I'm going to say yes, so you'll get off the subject.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta say it.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Bill Foley says any Knights player who disrespects the flag will not be allowed to play. All right.
I'm gonna say this, and this is really not political. I'm gonna go back to J.T. Smith has had death threats against him. Nobody said it was a bad thing when he raised his fist, and he wasn't doing it for political anything. He was doing it because he feels like things should change in the country. And I really defy anybody to say that shouldn't change, where players of color don't
Yeah.
You really can't go to a hockey game without being threatened. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I answered this question really quick before we leave. Bill Foley, okay, was obviously he's an Army guy, right? So he's in the U.S. Army. Does that change anything with his statement?
No, because there are Army guys that will go both ways. Like,
but him saying that he's not okay with you, I mean, disrespecting the flag.
It has nothing to do with the Army.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not taking a side.
Yeah.
People are saying, well, he's in the Army. That's why he really cares that much about it.
Well, I mean, from what you just said, he sounds like he's taking the same stance that Jerry Jones is taking with the Cowboys. He said if anybody protests, he's going to that player will not play. I mean, if it's, let's just I don't really want to
think about this is this, and then we'll get off of it. I don't like about that. This is their home openers tonight. I don't like the fact that this, because what if someone does it and then that's an issue. Like, this is the home opener. You've had enough going on in Vegas. You don't need to bring this into it right now.
The focus will rightly be on the tragedy from last week. This will not be. I don't think there's I don't know. And if player does do it, then we'll deal with it then. But I think the focus should be. On the tragedy and honoring the people who died and honoring the people who were injured, and put the political baloney aside.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Leave it alone.
I agree with you on that one. And this, even if I had a hard statement, I would say that this is a game where you definitely need unity, and if you're gonna unify behind our flag or our country, that's one way to do it, or whatever. That's all I'll say. But anybody who does it, I can respect their opinion, so that's fine too. That would just be my opinion. Anyway, for what it's worth, I thought it was interesting because it's coming directly from an NHL owner. So we do have some other good games tonight. Oh, and I wanted to mention that Carolina and Vancouver were both 1-0. Beat two really good teams. Vancouver beat Edmonton. Carolina beat Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina.
There's worry in Edmonton already because they're worried about secondary scoring. We did bring that up in our preview as to maybe why we don't think they're a cup team like everybody else, because you can't rely on Connor McDavid for 82 games. You cannot.
Now, it's easier said than done because McDavid is probably the fastest player in the league.
Yeah.
And other teams weren't able to pull this off. But remember, last year when Edmonton came into Toronto and Nazem Kadri got in his kitchen and aggravated him, that was what Anaheim did again in the playoffs. They put Kessler on him, and Kessler, when he could catch him, was physical, and basically played a very conservative game, sat back, and did not allow. If you remember, McDavid's point total in that series was not very good. It was Draisaitl's offense that really carried him to Game 7. That's the formula that a lot of teams – now, not to say that it's going to stop McDavid from scoring 100 points, but teams can be successful at shutting him down in that way. Get underneath his skin. And there's not a lot other than Draisaitl. This is the thing. If they put Draisaitl on McDavid's line, they are foolish. They need to diversify their offense. They need Draisaitl as the second line center. They need Nugent Hopkins as the third line center, and spread teams out so they can't focus on shutting down McDavid. If they do that, then they'll be okay. If they try to go lump everything together, that's not going to work.
I agree with that. I know what you're saying, but I think that what I liked about Nugent Hopkins being the second line center is Nugent Hopkins has come out really strong. Like, he's getting serious time, and he's not a third line center, Nugent Hopkins.
No, but but that provides a matchup problem, Mac. I mean, if you have Nugent Hopkins, a former number 1 overall pick.
I agree, but if it depends. I mean, there are times they kind of have to do it like Pittsburgh did it all those years, right? Where they kept them apart most of the time, put them together.
Right.
And that's what Malkin and Crosby would play together if things got bad. But they usually put them together when they were slumping or when they needed something big. So
right. I mean, last night in the Chicago game, Taves is on one line with Brandon Saad, Kane is on another line, and the only time that they played together is on a power play late in the game or middle of the game, and in the 3-on-3 in overtime. They kept them separate because they have to spread out the offense.
I do have big breaking news. It really is. I'm not joking this time. So the AHL has a couple of really big things to announce. Right now, the first thing is in 2018-19, there will be the Colorado Eagles, and the Avalanche will that'll be their AHL affiliate.
Wow.
Now, with that happening, the St. Louis Blues have entered into a 5-year agreement with the San Antonio Rampage that'll start in that same year.
Okay.
So now there won't be any more shared affiliation with Chicago. Remember, we were talking about that with
Vegas will get Chicago all to themselves.
And Colorado's getting a brand new place, and then St. Louis is taking over San Antonio. That's kind of cool,
right? And I'm just theorizing here because Colorado's AHL affiliate right now is the Cleveland/Lake Erie Monsters. It would make a lot of sense geographically if that would be Columbus's AHL team.
Right. So there's 31 teams now in the AHL, which is what you want, and good for them. I mean, this is something that's not easy for the AHL to do, right? Because they don't get the same attendance as the NHL, and we're not going to go into a whole history show of the AHL. But again,
things that your fans, the fans are AHL fans are fans of those players. If you go to an AHL game, you'll see AHL uniforms with players on them that they buy. Expensive uniforms that they buy.
I'll tell you, the Marlies has been a big success for Toronto because it's a gateway to the players that they see with the Leafs. There were 6,000 people at the game at the opener on Saturday. I was there for part of the game, and they draw and they get a chance to see Liljegren and so they're young players. So I think that's a good thing. And for teams who want to shuttle players up and back from the AHL, having a team relatively close like Rochester is to Buffalo and the Marlies are to the Leafs, it's a big benefit for them.
Huge. I mean, the Flyers having the Phantoms was enormously important. I mean, it looks
like the Eagles are taking over the Eagles franchise that was in the Central Hockey League that had won 3 championships. So and 2 in the Central and 1 in the ECHL. So now. Yeah, we'll see. They say they're moving to northern Colorado, which I had no idea where that is.
Could be Colorado Springs, something like that.
Yeah. Really colder. Yeah, I mean, those are those beautiful cities in the world, honestly. Yeah, so that's good for them. I mean, there are. I mean, I'm only 2.5 hours from Hershey, and going to a game in Hershey, it's like going to an NHL game. I mean,
Hershey is amazing. I mean, especially from a media food perspective. But the arena is really nice.
I've only been a fan there. I've never gone to the press box.
Oh no! For dessert, you can have like chocolate cheesecake. Like that's it. They don't charge you. It's awesome.
Wow.
That's normal. Yeah, I mean, they've been helpful. They're really a great franchise.
They're a great franchise. They are, and that is a great building. Lehigh is good too. Don't get me wrong. I wish there was one closer. Lehigh is like an hour and 20 minutes, but I still go because
Lehigh's pretty darn close. It takes me just the same amount of time to get to the Wells Fargo Center.
And that's a nice building. It is.
Really nice building. No question about it. So, and the Marlies got big because the Leafs tried to suck for many years and get great players down there. So it was.
Yeah, if your team has great players, generally the fans will show up in the AHL. Like that's true. I mean,
for sure they did. All right, well, that's all the time we have for today, guys. Enjoy the games tonight. A couple really good ones. Have fun. Carolina, I talked about briefly. They're going to be playing Columbus tonight, so that's going to be a real big test for Carolina tonight.
That's a big test.
Yep. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.